So Harris does her first interview with her vice presidential nominee by her side. Walz, I again, pre-taped, edited, pushed a little by Bash on a couple. We'll play that for you in just a minute. Really the only time, because when you get 26 minutes, you got two people ask questions for you. You're not going to have a ton of time to push back on every answer. And I will say, I mean, going into if this is it before she does, other than rallies where she's reading off a teleprompter, a debate is going to be very bizarre for her, because those kind of answers about values and things are just, and again, it's just not going to keep you above water. You start sinking and you start looking like you don't know what you're really talking about, or that you'll say whatever you have to say, regardless of if it's popular or not, to get elected. So basically, you'll say, if it's popular, I'll say this. If it's not popular, my values have told me that while my values haven't changed, my policies have had to change, is what she'll, I guess, start to say. And that's what's making people nervous, Logan, in places like Pennsylvania, people that rely on issues like fracking, people that rely on these kind of issues, because they hear her, we can play it for everybody, and the pushback, and they say, you know what? This is someone, by the time they get into office, could go back right away back to saying, I'm going to ban fracking on day one. Take a listen. It's a longer exchange, because we want to let you hear Bash kind of push back a little on Harris to try and get an answer on what is she talking about with this change from saying she wanted to ban fracking on day one to not ban fracking. And we're just using this as one of the extreme examples of a huge policy shift.
Yeah, and I think for the day one clip, a lot of that conversation is just, you can see that push from Dana Bash to just be like, hey, you're still not really answering the question. So she doesn't even really get into any details. It's just like, I'm going to do a lot of stuff. Take a listen.
Yeah.
If you are elected, what would you do on day one in the White House?
Well, there are a number of things. I will tell you, first and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class. When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions of the American people, I think that people are ready for a new way forward. In a way that generations of Americans have been fueled by hope and by optimism. I think, sadly, in the last decade, we have had in the former president someone who has really been pushing an agenda and an environment that is about diminishing the character and the strength of who we are as Americans, really dividing our nation, and I think people are ready to turn the page on that.
So what would you do day one?
Day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families, for example, extending the child tax credit to $6,000 for families for the first year of their child's life, to help them buy a car seat, to help them buy baby clothes, a crib. There's the work that we're going to do that is about investing in the American family around affordable housing, a big issue in our country right now.
Okay. Yeah, so just a lot of words, we're going to help people do stuff, good stuff. We're going to help them do things. By the way, of course, the one detail she brings up is baby clothes and those type of things and stuff that, by the way, who provides a lot of those now? Your pregnancy resource centers that you're currently also trying to shut down.
The reason they don't want her doing specific interviews is clear. They're going to shift policies around until they find exactly where they think the American voter is, the majority is, because they're trying to find, it looks like fracking's okay now. The moms are not against fracking because gas prices are up. So we need to actually support fracking for right now. And then if later we need to be against fracking because we can get gas prices down, we'll ban it. So by the way, if your job involves fracking or the industry that relies on fracking, you may not want to be supporting Harris. Because take a listen to this one about how you even got there in this word salad by 5.
When you were in Congress, you supported the Green New Deal. And in 2019, you said, quote, "There is no question I'm in favor of banning fracking." Fracking, as you know, is a pretty big issue, particularly in your must-win state of Pennsylvania.
Sure.
Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
I mean, It's really extreme, Logan, to go. That's like saying, like I was pro-abortion and now I'm going to be pro-life, and I'm going to be so pro-life.
And more of a here's a reason why. I think the difference is if you said, okay, let's lay out a reason of why my opinions have changed. There's no reason. It's just, of course I said I'm not going to do it. There isn't a reason. I think you can have a change of heart. You can have a change of thought.
Put the finger into the wind.
Yeah, what do the voters want? And when you have a situation like what's going on currently in Pennsylvania, where you are actually seeing a much closer race than expected, you see a race that actually may lean towards President Trump, which again, Pennsylvania has been one of those states that always can kind of go either way.
It's been tough. I remember he carried it the first time, lost it the second time. Republicans have wanted it. They have had success there before in other statewide elections, but I'll tell you, it's kind of, you can win Pennsylvania. It's a very good sign as you move on election night. Now, usually Pennsylvania comes in later because it's a big state. But, it could certainly, if you're winning Pennsylvania, Logan, it's like you're probably winning Georgia too. It's kind of what I mean. You know what I mean? Like, if you can win, now they're different, very different states demographically. But what I mean is you've hit on the right notes. And you've got enough suburban voters and enough blue-collar voters together to decide to pull the lever for Trump again, which they did not do the last election cycle.
And of course, this is just in those key swing states. I mean, even Nate Silver said if this was a general populated vote, Harris would currently win by about 4 points.
I think that's true for every election currently, and that's because the founding fathers were very smart.
Yeah, it's because of the coasts.
Democrats outnumber Republicans by registration by millions. So if they have good turnout, they would always technically win. And it's why we have a democratic republic is so that you get representation, sometimes based off your size of your state, like in House. Yeah. Sometimes you get equal, like in the Senate. And then in the election, you do get more influence by the size of your state, but by the Electoral College, so that states that are smaller still can play a key role, or else they would be completely ignored politically, even if they were kind of a 50-50 state.
That's right. He kind of goes on later and says, however, though she's up in the national, she's fallen to only a 47.3% chance of winning the Electoral College. Obviously, that's what matters. And the numbers, that's all that really matters, because you are fighting for just these handful of states. And I think when you have that moment of talking about fracking, you talk about those situations, it's because those aren't playing well in these handful of states. Well, let's go to Bill in Wyoming. Bill, we didn't get you the other day also, and now you're back. Bill, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. My company, they're reducing the hours of many of the employees, and this is a many-state company. So I'm not happy with the economy, and I tend to think that what she's doing is using some of the playbook that Obama said, saying, this is my stance so that you can elect me, and then when he gets in, well, suddenly during my time in office, I've evolved in my thinking, and I think this other choice should be done.
Well, listen, I think you can evolve on issues. I don't think she is evolving and changing on issues. She's saying she's not, because she's saying her values are the same. She is just going to take these softball interviews, Logan. If this is the worst kind of interview she has to get through, then this is going to be easy for her.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know what? I don't know that she's going to do it. She's probably not going to do another interview until after the debate, right?
Certainly not with a less friendly.
Right. I mean, who's going to be more friendly? MSNBC? I'm not even sure, because they are hard liberal. They may not like that answer on fracking. CNN is in that,
on Israel
is in that spot, right, where they want Democrats to win. MSNBC wants Democrats to be liberals and win, but CNN wants those Democrats to win. So I appreciate your call. I do think, by the way, if you want to find the interview, it's everywhere. You can watch it online if you can stomach through it.
All right, continuing on, let's go to Martin, who he maybe couldn't stomach through it. Martin, you're on the air.
Thank you, guys. You just took my stand. I couldn't stomach more than 3 or 4 minutes of it. I want to give 2 examples very quickly why people need to do their own fact-checking. When you played that segment about they had to get the economy, they created the mess. What was it, 7, 8, 9% inflation down to 3%, and they're happy with that? And Donald Trump had, 1.6%? And then the other thing, going back to last night when I turned it off, when she was blaming Donald Trump for the loss of jobs during COVID, if you do your fact-checking, each individual state put their own shelter in place, in fact. So they blame him, then they take credit when the jobs come back. You got to do your own fact-checking, got to learn for yourself. That's why I couldn't stomach this.
You are the kind of person we need out there, right? Talking to your friends and family. You are in a key state too. Republicans get North Carolina back. It's like Rick said, they have to win Pennsylvania, but if they don't win Michigan, they have to win a couple other states. North Carolina is like one of those. So is Georgia. So you're going to play a very important role. So make sure you're getting that information out to your friends and family. I mean, it's the truth, folks. I know that when we're talking to our audience, and I think that you can learn a lot from this broadcast. I even learned a lot, from the guests that we'll have on. But I also know that you are probably some of the most educated folks out there on the issues. So you can call it in these interviews really quickly and say, you know what, this is not true. I know these facts aren't right because I know what the inflation numbers are, and I know what the reality was under COVID, that it was not President Trump who was shutting down the businesses. It was governors and mayors and places. And if you were in a redder state, in a redder city, or even in a kind of you could be in a blue city, but in a red state that knew that they really relied on service jobs. And guess what? Places like where we live opened up as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it was looking back on it wild how quickly they did.